for someone who would normally dust me in most class workouts, it was funny to see it was the other way around when it got to more of the high skill stuff and the stuff that, I would have developed for, the past 10 years. And even, like I said, like some of the strategies I had going into the workouts, it was like, smarter, not harder, like working smarter, not harder in a lot of the cases, and it paid off. And it was only the one workout where that wasn't the case. It was literally hard work would pay off, which is the handstand walk one, that I genuinely struggled at because I couldn't strategize myself through it. Like you had to make that distance on the handstand walk. Otherwise, like you're just going to get set way back. So it was interesting to see like those type of components come up, and it's good. Like the comparison it's not like me looking at Sean's times and me looking at my times and then me looking at your times and being like, oh, I'm just like such a good athlete. Fuck, I'm the best. Like, blowing off my own trumpet. But for me, it was like, okay, over the 4 workouts, what was the one I struggled at the most? What was the components that hurt me during that? Is there something that I can take away from this little sample size of an experience that I can apply to my training in the next couple of months to push my needle further? Because it's not necessarily like, okay, like take away that you came this position against these people. It's, okay, what does this mean to you? What does this data mean to you? And for me, it's like, it doesn't matter about what anyone else got. It was like, compared to the other 2 people on my team, this was the workout I struggled with the most. That's my weakest link. If I can push that forward, then our team is stronger rather than I am just better as an athlete.
Yeah, and for those listening, I mean, we've kind of already just driven in. Down Under Championships is basically the second biggest event in Australia, other than Torian, where athletes can go and compete and get to compete against a pretty competitive field, whether it be in individual teams. It's down in Wollongong, and it runs, qualifiers just ran now, and then the event will run through December, the first week of December. And it's always a good opportunity, like we said, just to see where everyone's at, see how other athletes are traveling, considering Torian is at the start of the year. So it's the opposite end of the year. People are able to get another 3 to 5 months of good training in, and then they get to kind of have a bit of a play and see how they go competing. We're kind of diving into the workouts and our experiences. Do we maybe just want to start with workout 1?
Workout one, the clean and jerk workout. For you, it was a few days ago. For me, it was yesterday. We got a very similar score, you and I. It was like
yes, very close.
3 rep difference. And interestingly enough, from a strength perspective and even a gymnastics perspective, on paper, you would be much better than me at both of those. Like, you can clean and jerk far more than I can. And I'd probably say your gymnastics is a lot more efficient. You can hold on for bigger sets. Your grip endurance is better than mine. It was interesting to see because you kind of went into it with no strategy, and I went in with a complete strategy, a breakdown. And it was good to see like how, even though that I would lack in those components, by having and sticking to a strategy that was achievable by me, I was able to get close to you.
Yeah, so I went into that workout, just literally coached the 2 classes, and then Crystal loaded the bar for me, and I was like, all right, let's go. Let's do it. Did a couple of clean and jerks at 60 kilos, and then it was pretty much on from there. And it was interesting because I definitely had no idea, no plan, not normally how I would approach any of these things. So if I would go into the open or anything like that, and I'm actually taking it seriously, I definitely sit down. I partially test the workouts through the first couple of days, those kind of things. Matt and I have done that before. I didn't do that this year. This year was literally just grip it and rip it and see what happens. More for myself, more because that's kind of how my training has been at the moment. Where my training has been, I actually want to learn my limitations, and I want to learn and see how I deal with things mentally when they don't go to plan. So for me, training, like, I'm not doing training because I want to go to Down Under and I want to compete individually. Like, I'm training because I want to build mental resilience, and I want to build an ability to make sure that I dial in discipline and I take that into other areas of my life. And the artificial stress that you have in this environment with training is the perfect way to do that. So I put myself in that adversity as early as I can in the workout. A lot of the time where it's go too hot, go and just see what happens. Does my body shut down? Do I mentally give up? How do I strategize? How do I adapt and pivot? And that's kind of what I did throughout. And I was surprised that I was actually able to put up some pretty competitive times doing that. You went the opposite way. So for you, it was like, all right, I know exactly where my fitness level is at. How do I min-max my scores to make sure that I get the best time here?
Yeah, and it paid off 3 of the 4 workouts. The one that took me a lot by surprise was the handstand walk one. It was purely for the sense that I haven't done that much volume of handstand walks, repeat volume, after being shoulder fatigued. So that was a bit of an eye-opener for me. It's like, oh, you know, I'm pretty good at handstand walks. I can do long distances, but I didn't realize I couldn't back it up. And that's what hurt me the most. Is my strategy worked wonderfully. It was get to that point, you know, be quite fresh and then hit the handstand walks. And then I even had to adjust my technique slightly because I know that I have a slight bend in my elbow when I handstand walk, which makes it more tricep dominant. And then I had to lock out my arms and try and only use my shoulders because my triceps were missing in action. They were gone after, you know, the first 2 walks, and I still had 10 to go. So it was a bit of an eye opener there. But like you said, like, it was interesting, the 2 different approaches, and how, but even looking at my training, like, my training is strategy approached. And one thing you always get annoyed at is, like, you see what you can do in the session, like when we're doing the class workouts, you see what you can do to push me by, like, you know, going bigger sets, like running to the bar and seeing if that influences me to make a move and potentially a mistake. But in my head, I have a strategy. Like, regardless of what anyone else is doing, I stick to that. And that has its pros and cons. The con
That's
being...
part of competing, yeah.
Yeah. The con being, though, is, like, maybe I'm leaving some on the table where I could have pushed and I don't, which is where your strategy has its advantage, is you have that flexibility to kind of just be like, oh, I went too hot here, I need to back off, or oh, maybe I'm not going hard enough, I've got more, I can hold on for a few more reps, whereas I'm a stickler for my numbers. If I set myself 10 reps, I'm going to hit 10 reps and then break. It doesn't matter whether I feel good or not, because from my experience, I've known that early on in the workout, you're always going to feel good. Later in the workout, that's when you need those numbers. You can't hit them anymore. Now you've put yourself in a hole because you set an aggressive target and you're not able to accomplish that goal.
And for me personally, that was where I really struggled. So you could argue that I'm still using a strategy, it's just different. So I really struggled when I got to that. So when I got to that position, my internal dialogue just went negative. And the only way to train that was spend more time there. The easiest way to spend more time there was get there earlier. So how do you get there earlier? You go harder, hotter, bigger sets, things that you wouldn't normally tell a competitive athlete to do. No. 2 minutes into a 20-minute workout and you're fucking redlined. And it's like, all right, 18 minutes, I need to adapt here and just deal with it.
Yeah.
And that really helped me. Like, that really helped me just instill some confidence in myself and some self-belief, which I've been able to take into other parts of training. And I'm still in that mindset. So I'm not in a competing mindset. Like, I'm still in a training mindset. I just use those workouts as another way to do it and get a bit more feedback in terms of, all right, well, compared to the rest of the field, where am I sitting at? And then go back over the videos, reflect and go, okay, what would I change if I really was to try and do this as a competitive workout? What time could I put up? And have a look at, like, what your potential is like. To give you an idea of what the gaps like. So it's like, okay, we'll see Saturday where we place, and how that goes, and then that'll give us information that we can use moving forward, and we just have to make the decision. What do we want to go and compete it down under? Do we not? Do we want to just keep doing what we're doing?
Yeah. What changes can you make or put in place? What extras you need to do? What things that you lack or maybe you're overabundant in? And it's like seeing that middle ground and being like, okay. And that's always what the open does well. Like, regardless of what your goal is in the open, the rank is what actually gives you the data. It's like, okay, I ranked really well on the thruster workout, the 1RM thruster, but I did really poorly on burpee, pull-ups and shuttle runs. It's like, okay, maybe I need to, not be so pro strength and be a bit more endurance training or focus a bit more on body weight work. And it's like, it gives you that instant data. It's like, you don't have to read into it. It's, you can clearly see you rank really well here and really poorly here. If you're like across the board even ranking, then it's like, fuck, that gives you
just got
nothing.
to move all the needles.
It just means that
a little bit more.
Unless you're 1, 1, 1 and 1, like, you need to just keep doing what you're doing. I guess it's just more consistency, making sure you're showing up and things like that. We'll move on to workout 2. Workout 2 was...
So, workout 2, I think it was the handstand one.
Yeah.
So the one that we just kind of touched on. So to give the listeners a bit of an idea, that one was 3 rounds, 30 shuttle runs. Now that's basically 15 shuttle runs, 30 laps.
Yeah.
And then you had 15 strict handstand push-ups. Once you completed those 3 rounds, you then had 3 rounds of 28 cal row, and then 30 meter handstand walk done as 4 7.5 meter increments that had to be unbroken.
Yeah. And that's the part that got me the most, was Like, if it was just a standard handstand walk where you had the little increments in between, but it was the fact that it forced you to go unbroken on the 7.5, which normally isn't that far, but 12 of them did accumulate over a certain amount of time.
After 45 handstand push-ups.
Yeah, you've already gassed your shoulders. If you've done previous workouts, it would have played a part in that one. For me, the work I did before that was a deadlift thruster workout, so it was like, it kind of had a little bit of carryover, and it's just, for when I got there compared to when you got there, and I watched Michael's video on the same workout, and he gets off the row, kicks straight up, handstand walks, turns around, handstand walks back. I watched my video, kicks up, handstand walks, sits there for 30 seconds because he's like, I'm not going to make another handstand walk if I rush this. To my credit though, I almost failed every single final handstand walk of every round, and literally the last round, this is my internal dialogue, I got halfway and I'm like, you're going to fail. Like, you're not going to get this workout done on the cap. Like, you're not going to make it. And like, the other part of me was just like, if you fail this rep, your team score is going to plummet. I'm like, you need to make that line. I was like, whatever it takes. It's like, if you collapse, at least you tried. And I was just like, come on. Like, I was halfway. I couldn't see the line in sight. And I was like, oh my God, I'm so screwed. But I made it there. Like, you
got there in the end.
Just looked back, 20 seconds left on the clock, and that was definitely my weakest performance. But for me, what it showed is what's weak, which is actually, funnily enough, what the podcast is about.
That got a lot of athletes. Like, we obviously communicate with a lot of guys that compete in that, and a lot of athletes, that was a workout that caught them out.
Yeah, and it's just shoulder and arm endurance, with a combination of some higher skill gymnastics, but it wasn't necessarily the difficulty of something like a handstand push-up or handstand walk. It was just the accumulative volume of it, and like the other movements were essentially just novelty, like shuttle runs and calories on the row. Like, yeah, if I was really good at rowing and shuttle runs, I might have beat Michael as long as I could keep up on the handstand walks. But other than that, if you were able to go hard on the handstand walk component of that workout, like, it's a good workout for you. For many of us, it was like, you did one, you just like, oh my God, my arms are gone. You're shaking your arms, you're sitting there. Like, that was the part of it defined the workout. Like, the first half was almost irrelevant. It was just there to fatigue you for the second half.
And that's not something I've always been good at. Like, I mean, you look at, we just did Fittest in the Yard not long ago, and my weakness was density on handstand walks.
Yeah, Matt will atone to that.
Yeah, Matt, can you go again?
Yeah.
So I have been working on it, and I've been trying to do a lot more pre-fatigue work going into handstands, and a lot of it for me was just confidence and time on my hands. So it was cool to see that pay off in that workout.
Yeah, and that's probably what I was going to make a point across. Like, the point of today's podcast, episode 35, is compete and find what's weak. And for you had that early realization. That was back in July, the start of July, which was the Fittest in the Yard. And there was a handstand walk component that the workout finished with max handstand walks. And it was literally like 5 to 6 minutes for the elite teams, because they got there so quickly, of just as many reps as you could do. And the one thing to Michael's discredit is he couldn't just allow Matt to kick up and take a handstand walk for him. You had to go one after another. And then in that position, that's where it exposed the weakness, because you couldn't hide behind Matt's fitness in that particular movement. So it was like,
I was the weak link. Matt had to wait for me to get it done. I had to take a little bit longer to rest, and then Matt just got faster and faster
because he was more well recovered. He could appreciate the volume a bit better because you were struggling so much. And that's, like I said, this is the realization that I had when I did this same workout essentially, but for this competition. It was like, now I'm the weak link in the team. Like, Sean got a better time than me, and then Michael got like 5 minutes quicker than I did. And it was like, well, if there's volume handstand walks at down under, like, you need to improve this now, because otherwise it's like, you're going to let the team down. Like, if they choose a max distance handstand walk or something, like, you're fucked. Like, or each athlete must do 30 meters. Like, I'm screwed. Like, so it's like, for me, that's like, okay, 2 to 3 times a week, handstand walks, handstand push-ups, some sort of a workout that elevates the heart rate and forces you to go on your hands. And like you said, like, push those limits. Like, because it's training, go further than you want to. Try and kick up sooner. That's actually something that Matt taught me, was like, he always, when you watch him train, a lot of people don't kind of like watch what he's doing, and that's analyzing what he's doing as an athlete. He'll get off a movement. As he's moving to the next movement, he takes a big deep inhale through his nose, breathes out, and then gets on it straight away. Like for him in his head, he told me that that's his reset. That's how much rest he gets. As soon as he's had that breath, he starts the next movement. Not only does it lower his heart rate, reduces his anxiety, but it forces him to go sooner than he wants. Because otherwise, if you're sitting there in your thoughts, like 9 times out of 10, you'd be like, oh, I'll take a few more seconds. Like, oh, I need I'll go like in 10 seconds or something. He's not giving himself that option. It's like, breath's done, I'm going.
Yeah, and what we spoke about before, like my strategy of getting there early and trying to like hurt and just spend more time there, that's inherently forcing that.
Yeah.
So what's happening is it's irrelevant of what he does next, but what he is training is he's training his ability to now be fatigued and move under fatigue. He's not allowing that recovery that gets him 40% recovered. It's like, all right, I'm still hurting, I'm still stinging, and I'm going to pick it up, and yeah, I want to go for 10, but I might do 3.
Yeah.
But the more he does that, the more likely he is to be able to pick it up and eventually go for 10. As where I think a lot of people fall into the trap where they almost just become too comfortable with programmed rest without realizing. It's almost like their internal dialogue is like, my heart rate has to come back down from 179 to 159, then I can pick it up. And they don't even realize that. So yeah. It becomes those chalk breaks. It becomes the universal resting position. It becomes those, like you said, like you're just lengthening out those rest periods because they don't want to fail or they're too fixated on the number.
Yeah.
As where you watch a lot of the athletes that are progressing and moving the needle faster, which we just spoke about, they're not doing that. They're failing. Like in their training, they're failing those things. Like they're like, get off the row and they kick up. They probably fall. All right. But they learn and they go, okay, sweet. Give myself 1 second, kick up. Sweet, I made it. And then they get better because they're pushing the envelope every chance they get.
Yeah, and it gives you that feedback of like, okay, like this is the bare minimum that I would require before I do X movement, perform Y. Like, and then when you get to the competition, it's like, you know that you've got another way to set yourself, and that's also what a lot of experience does for athletes who are seasoned. You know what I mean? Like they have more experience than these young athletes. Even though the young athletes may be fitter, they know their bodies way better. They know exactly what weights they can hit on certain movements. They know exactly how many reps they need to do for a toe to bar or a chest to bar or a muscle up before they start to feel the fatigue or they know that like, okay, if grip is my biggest weakness, maybe I want to break this a little bit more because it's a very grippy workout. They know that before they even do it, and that's the beauty of finding these limits in training, finding that ceiling. Obviously we want to push the ceiling further and get better, but if you at least know how high you can go or how hard you can push, like you need to do that in training before you get out on the floor. And it was good. It's always good to do these online competitions because that allows you to experiment and try things that you normally wouldn't.
And something to throw a spanner in the works here, that comes from mindful training, not mindless training, which I'm sure all the coaches out there have heard it before. I know it triggers me. I know it triggers Matt. I know it triggers you. When athletes or even just members come up to you and say, I just want a mindless chipper.
Yeah.
I just want a long mindless workout. And it's like, the amount of opportunity that's been left out there by you literally just making that statement is absolutely ridiculous. Like the chippers are fine, it just can't be mindless.
No, exactly. And even for that sake, like anything that is mindless, that means there's no intention behind it. So if there's no intention, there's no progression. If there's no progression, then why when it comes down to it, when things get tough, you're not going to show up because you don't see progress. That's the thing that gives you internal motivation, intrinsic motivation.
There's a quote that I read yesterday, and it was like, if you're lost, get educated. If you're educated, apply action. If you apply action, keep consistency.
Yeah.
And it's like, it just lays it out for you. So it literally is like, if you're lost in the workouts or you feel like you're not progressing, then just educate yourself a little bit more around movement or application or anything like that. And then the answer's kind of in the quote. So it's like, what stage are you at?
And big pushback. This is our own personal affiliates pushback. Thursday workouts for the last month have been these 3 10-minute workouts, and they, for many parts, have been pretty uncompletable for most of the members here. And what's interesting about that is, like you said, like educate yourself on why it's uncompletable. You and I do complete these workouts as prescribed. The one thing that I find that can get people or put people in a position where they're not going to complete all 3 workouts, and I mean, you and I also experienced this.
We've made this mistake,
is not appropriately pacing or scaling based on your ability level. So for us pacing, last week's Thursday workout, we full went out the gate hot on workout 1 and 2. We were so destroyed by the final workout. You didn't even complete the first 800 meter run. And I had to scale the last 800 meter run because I couldn't run. We cramped up bad. Our body was not reacting well. And it just showed us that
so it took me 10 minutes. I got 400 meters in, everything locked up, my shins, my calves. I laid on the ground for like 5 minutes at the car wash with everyone laughing at me. And I had to walk backwards for 200 meters just to try and get back.
But it just highlights like in that workout, in that moment, like we picked a poor pace. We went far too hot and our bodies could not cope with the volume that the workout had. So
at that intensity.
Yeah. And in my eyes, like, yeah, be intense, but maybe we needed to make some more intentional breaks on workout 1. We needed to get through workout 2 at a pace that allowed us to start workout 3 and get through the run, because technically on paper, the members who finished those other 2 workouts slower than us, but were able to complete the final workout, smashed us. If it was a competition leaderboard, they would have beaten us because they were able to complete all 3 workouts. And
the cool thing that I noticed too, though, is so we both technically stuffed up, and it's but we still had fun. We came in, we still had smiles on our face. We laughed with everyone. At no point were we dummy spitting, throwing a tantrum, throwing our ropes, and I think that's an important takeaway is things aren't going to go to plan, and that's fine. Take the lesson, be present. For us, it's exactly what we're talking about now. It's okay, we maybe don't race the first 0 to 10 minutes red line.
And I remember I was saying to you in the moment, my internal dialogue is, I'm not recovered. Workout 2's coming around. And I had something like 7.5 minutes of rest and I was not recovered. My heart rate was still at 160 and I was like, how am I going to perform anything else? We managed to get through workout 2 together well, but there was like I said, and that's just my point being on these workouts when people are these aren't completable, they're not achievable. And it's okay, maybe is your pace correct? Are you actually genuinely pushing to a point where you're able to get these workouts done under the time cap? And then second to that, are you scaling appropriately? Are you doing what's actually doable by you? If it calls for 40 shouldered overhead at 60, which one of the workouts did, are you able to do 4 sets of 10, which is what I did, and I got through it in 2 minutes? If the answer is no, then pick a weight that allows you to do that. Because if not, then you're not scaling appropriately, and that's why you're not finishing, because your ability level doesn't reflect your work output. And it's you need to make sure that it reflects it, so it's equivalent to you and I. If you're super strong and I'm weak, I'm doing 40, you're doing 60, we're both doing 4 sets of 10. We're both doing the same workout. Yeah, you might take a slightly longer time to recover because that weight is physically heavier than mine and it will put more stress on your body. Because you're stronger, you should be able to tolerate that. So then we're in an even playing field. It doesn't matter, but people just get so caught up in, this is what workout says, I need to do it RX, I need to do it at 60, I need to do 40 reps. It's no, you don't. That's just the recommended amount. And that's what people get always caught up with.
Yeah, but you look at that, that's a social problem.
Yeah.
Everyone and everything is so fixated on hierarchy and titles and we talk about it all the time. At the end of the day, everyone's the fucking same.
Yeah.
Irrelevant of how much money you earn, you don't get to take that to your grave. And we have to remember that. We just have to be a little bit more humble, I think, and a little bit more. Look at why we do CrossFit. We joke about it all the time. We love CrossFit because the janitor gets to talk to the lawyer.
Yeah.
And they're not talking, they never would ever get to expose, have shared trauma like that anywhere else. The lawyers are making good money and they're just hanging out with other people that make good money. They don't get to hang out with the others.
Yeah, exactly. And it shows you all aspects of all environments because you all have the same goal, which is...
Yeah, and the janitor out-cleans the lawyer and he pumps him in the workout. Yeah. And you're hell yeah, bro.
Exactly. And actually, I have a quote about this, which is about competition. And it's about... competition is always a good thing. It forces us to do our best. A monopoly renders people complacent and satisfied with mediocrity. So the idea behind that is exactly what you were saying. People are super rich rich, but no one gives a shit. Like, you don't take that to your grave about how much money you have, or like even how much you clean. Like, no one cares. It's like, how can you apply that? How can you improve yourself? Like, it only really matters about you and your lane. And I always tell people, like, my favorite's rep shavers. Like, people who accuse others of rep shaving. And I'm like, just get back in your lane. Like, don't worry so much about what they're doing, because how does that affect you? It actually affects them, because they're not getting as much volume. They're not putting in as much work as you are. You are achieving more by completing all of the repetitions and the workout as prescribed. But you shouldn't care about what they're doing. Maybe they have their own issues that they're worrying about. Maybe they're appropriately scaling. They scaled the volume and you haven't actually asked them about that. Maybe they're injured and they're just trying to get their body to move through range of motion. Like, you don't know their story. Yeah, they could just generally be cheating and doing it because their ego won't allow them to be beaten by other people. But why is that your problem? Eventually, even with them cutting reps, even with them cutting corners, you will be better than them.
I love it. I like when someone's cutting reps and I'm like, all right, sweet, I'm going to race you.
Yeah.
Like, because I know that I'm putting in the work, and I'm like, even if they're taking shortcuts and you know that you're pushing the needle, all right, who's going to come out better? Like, they're just helping you. But yeah. Like, they're just helping you improve.
In the long term.
Like,
100%.
Like, you think about it. Imagine if, like, you have a friend who's telling you, like, oh man, I'm up at 5 a.m. every morning and I'm working till 8 p.m. And then you start going, shit, I got to hustle. He's just been lying to you and talking shit, which, to be honest, half the books are like that. It's over-exaggerated quotes and things like that. But, like, the point isn't about whether it's truthful or a lie. The point is that it creates almost like an intrinsic expectation of, like, okay, now this is the standard. I need to level up. And that's how we have to take it. Like, even though we're looking at that and we're going, okay, like, it's a negative, he's cutting reps. Is it? It doesn't have to be a negative. You can use it as a positive for you.
Exactly. And it's only a negative for him. It's not a negative for you. And
you can't control that. No, you don't even try to. Just go, okay, sweet. Like, he's running short distance. He's doing 300 and scaling. I'm running 500. I'm still going to try and catch him.
Yeah. And if I beat him, like, how much more fulfilled will you be knowing that you beat someone doing half the work? And it's like, on the other side of it, what you mentioned with that, waking up early and making someone else accountable through that intrinsic motivation. Jocko Willink does this thing where he wakes up and takes a photo of his watch. A lot of people will see on his Instagram. But how that started was that he said to everyone that he wakes up at 4:30 every morning, and people called him out on it. They're like, you don't, like, prove it. And now he does. Every single day he proves it. And it's not because he's like, oh, you know, these guys doubt me or whatever, like, or he's bullshitting and lying. It's purely because he's like, no, I do. And he's like, but that's given me intrinsic motivation to keep doing it.
And even if he was lying, what did they just do? They just made him better.
Yeah.
So, like, literally by calling him out, he was like, okay, I'll prove you wrong. And he took that as a positive motivator. So now he is getting up at 4:30 everyone, and he is getting more done, and he is more productive.
Yeah.
So he's going to be he's going to become the person that he was talking himself up to be inherently, just because of his mindset.
And I was going to say, it's like, how can we relate this to our situation and scenario? Michael, your deadlifts haven't been the greatest as of, you know, the last couple of weeks.
You guys call me out on it all the time.
And that's what it is. And it's like, and now he comes to me, he's like, look at my deadlifts. He's like, do you think I'm locking out? it's like, yes, bro, yes, you are. But it was initially because it was like, no, like, you know, you weren't doing it. People were like, oh, Michael, they held you at a higher standard, and they forced you to make sure that you were upholding your own standard for, you know, deadlift lockout and, you know, movement standards and stuff. Moving on though, we're getting sidetracked a little bit. Workout 3. We're only halfway through the work.
We're good at this.
Workout 3 was the grip endurance workout. It was, just for context, they had a 20-minute cap. I didn't believe the 20-minute cap at first. Didn't need it, but maybe some people did need it. We had 25 hang snatches, 25 burpee box jump overs, 50 toes to bar, 25 burpee box jump overs, 25 hang snatches.
45 kilos on the bar for the boys.
Yeah, so it wasn't necessarily a lightweight, but it wasn't heavy either. I, once again, had a strict strategy for this workout. I'm assuming you didn't. You just had a go for
Send
gold.
it and just see what happens.
And my strict strategy purely was because I thought this was my weakest link. I looked at all 4 workouts before I did any of them, and I was like, that's going to be my weakest link. Grip endurance is my weakest link. Obviously, I found out that handstand endurance is a little bit weaker, but my strategy was quite different to yours. Just for people's context, I set a rep range for the snatches. I did 10, 8, 7 for both the first and the last set. I didn't change anything up. My toes to bar was 5 or 10 sets of 5. So there was a lot of braking, but a lot of, quick break, jump back up. And the goal was to reduce the amount of grip endurance or grip fatigue that I would accumulate over the workout. Now, Michael, what was your strategy for the same workout?
My strategy was unbroken snatches, push the pace on the burpees, toes to bar, play with big dense sets, and then it was just hang on the back end, and whatever it ended up being on the barbell it was. I was just backing myself to want to hurt. Like that movement for me, in terms of the burpee box jump overs and the hang snatches, they're 2 movements that no matter how fatigued I am, I know I can at least pump out like decent sets, and it was more just like keeping things dense.
Yeah, and I looking at our time differences, we're about a minute apart from each other, so you did have a bit of an advantage on that workout in general, but being a minute apart for something for me personally was in my opinion, was one of my worst workouts, was going to be, and it turned out actually pretty well in my favor, purely because I was able to stick to that strategy. But that being said, you being able to push the pace got you an extra minute, got you a very competitive time. It's crazy to see what sometimes having no goal, no strategy can do when you back yourself.
And it didn't, to be fair, like watching the videos back and reflecting, like I could have pushed that like low 7s. Like I got off the burpee box jump overs and I had a bit of a breather before I picked up the bar. I went 10, 8, 7. Different day, like normally the way I would normally want to execute a workout like that, like it's 25 reps, I'm not going to fail, just hold on.
Yeah.
Like go unbroken on the snatches. And if I set myself up better throughout the workout, I definitely probably could have done that. But it's just one of those things you learn.
And you could have, like you said, you could have rested at any point, rested overhead, rested on your hips. You didn't have to put that bar down with a hang snatch. It's something that you can easily hold on or regrip or do a few more reps, but like in the moment you're like chasing that speed. You quick break, then it's the internal fight of quickly grab some chalk, I need it. Like for me, the bar was slipping. I was like, grab a closer grip, like just grab a closer grip, like don't keep gripping the same spot, like change the variable that's stopping or slowing you down. But then I still grabbed chalk and I was like, what are you doing, get back to the bar. And there's like that internal fight of like, try and get back, this is the end of the workout, this is all you need to do, then you're done. It's interesting to see my own internal battle when I was like going through that, and like, for me, it was my final workout. I was going to be done after this one, and I was like, come on, like just hold on, just get it done. So interesting. It's interesting to think about what you think in the moment and then compare it to what you would do after having that same experience. What would be a great thing is if you could test all the workouts without the fatigue and then do them again as you would do them the best way possible, but you can't do that. It's just not going to.
Yeah, and like a perfect scenario, you have other people do the workouts, you get an idea of time, movements, you know what your movement pace is, you can kind of work out your times from there. That was not how I did it. It was Monday, I was going to do all the workouts Monday.
Oh my
I was
God.
literally like, all right, I'm just going to get them done. I got a busy week. You were away. I just had too much work on, and I was like, I just got to get this shit over and done with. I didn't do that. I ended up doing 2 and 2. So Monday, Tuesday, which for me were both 15-hour work days.
Yeah.
I just squeezed them in between, and I was like, and it was fun. Like I enjoyed that. It made me feel like, you see a lot of the short workouts, push for time, like Kalipa, do this quick workout, push for time. Like you've got people doing like the dad workouts, things like that. Like that's what it felt like. It felt like, all right, just quick, hard, short, 3-minute warm up, load your bars, go.
Yeah, and it really just shows like you don't need an hour to train. You can get everything done that you want to get done. Like there was weightlifting components, there was gymnastics, there was cardio, there was Olympic lifting. There was a lot of things that were thrown into that, and a lot of different modalities. And it was like those workouts, I think the longest one for me was 19 minutes. But the rest of them, they were all under 10. And it was like, you got enough. Like I'm so sore today after doing all of that. And it was like for the same thing. I did 2 one day, 2 the next. And It's
All
good.
I wanted to do was normal training.
Yeah.
I was like, I just want to do bodybuilding.
I'm in the same boat. I'm just like, thank God they're over, because the intensity that you need to apply and even the mental capacity, like going into every workout, a little bit nervous before you start, heart rate starts a little bit higher. You're like waiting for the countdown. You know it's gonna hurt. So it's that whole like mental battle of like, shit, this is gonna be hard. Like, speaking of hard,
But it's cool. We had fun. Like, I must say, like, everyone, and you could see that, like just the culture. Everyone was like, it's just enjoyable.
yeah, and that's good. And having that ability to go talk to other athletes too. Like,
Maybe not Sean. Sean didn't enjoy it so much. But
it didn't seem like he was having too much fun. I mean, messaging Cam Gray, like comparing times and his workout splits and being like, wow, like I did really well at this. I beat him, or he beat me at this. Like, shit, I need to work on that. So that was always good to have that bit of like an external rivalry with people who weren't in our space, and just have that open-mindedness of like just telling them exactly what your time is. You don't need to hide things. You don't need to bullshit and lie. Like, this is what I did wrong. This is what I did right.
yeah, we didn't care at all.
No.
We were just like, here's our time.
Literally.
Like, yeah, good luck. Have fun.
Yeah, this one's gonna hurt. Sorry, bro. Speaking of the hurt, the last workout we did, workout 4, 21, 15, 9, 6, 3. Deadlifts at 100 and double dumbbell thrusters at 22 and a halves. For me, this was the best workout, and this is the workout that I could have asked for. And even though I put it on my story, I was like, why save the best to last? Why not do it first?
Start off hot with some momentum. Man.
Yeah, get some.
So this is the only one Tyler won. He won one workout, lost 3 workouts.
Hey, but I did win a 5-minute workout by 30 seconds. Would you equivalent that to like 4 minutes, 5 minutes or something in a long workout? Maybe, but in the retrospect though, Michael did this last after doing all the other workouts. I did this first before doing anything, so it was completely different scenarios. For me, my legs are still sore from this workout. I was actually questioning my ability to perform anything else. Like, I was like, am I going to be able to clean and jerk after this? Like, I can barely bend over. The workout itself was interesting because Michael had the same mindset he's had with all the other workouts: full send, go hard. For me, technically that was my mindset before hearing about what Michael did, and then based on his experience, it changed my idea. I was like, I physically could go unbroken on everything, but should I? Definitely not now that I've done it. The way that I approached it was I broke the first 2 sets in half. I did 14-7, 10-5. So I broke them down so that it was an achievable amount. I didn't run between movements. I didn't move excessively quick. I kept my heart rate low, and then as I got to the 9s, 6s, and 3s, obviously I went unbroken. But still, I wasn't quick. I wasn't running. Even the last 3 reps, I didn't sprint to the dumbbells to pick it up, purely because I nearly failed my dumbbell thruster. My legs were so heavy. But then watching his video of him do it versus me, he was lying on the ground for 20, 30 minutes probably. Took his shirt off and then lied on the ground. Like, he was done. Cam Gray, I watched him do the same thing. He said he took 45 minutes to recover. I sat on my barbell. I was a little bit sore, and then I just kind of got up and walked off. So the effect it had on me compared to the other guys was completely different. But for me, thrusters are my favorite movement. I'm pretty good at deadlifts. I'm short. I'm close to the ground. Like, there was a lot of advantages that I had in that one.
I enjoy a dumbbell thruster, I must say. Like, that's one movement that I do actually like. Even as like a taller athlete, people be like, oh, you wouldn't like a dumbbell thruster. I love a dumbbell thruster.
Is it because of the pushing part? I don't the top phase of the movement?
For me, it's like, yeah, because there's pressing in it. Like, you look at all my pressing workouts and I always score really well. So, like, the dumbbells are nothing.
It's just like, I feel like it has more variables.
It's just squat management for me.
Yeah, but the dumbbell has more variables than the barbell, and like you need to rely on the synergy of your arms. An arm could give out at any point, and it's also like, it's not uncomfortable though. Thrusters I always find are pretty uncomfortable. You can't hold a dumbbell thruster overhead like a barbell thruster. You just can't rest overhead. Like, the stability of your arms just won't hold.
Yeah, it's just harder to do.
So it is a cool variable. I have experience in a workout similar. 15.5 was
an interesting combination, like, where it was, because for me, I don't know about you, but like, at no point did it feel like shoulders for me.
No.
And it just felt like my fucking hips did not want to extend.
Quads were destroyed. Like, my legs, hamstrings, quads, abductors. Like, it was just all a leg workout. And They did a similar workout. It was 27, 21, 15, 9 calorie row and thrusters in the open. I did the New Zealand Nationals qualifier like maybe 3-4 years ago, and it had the same workout but with a dumbbell thruster instead of a barbell. So I got some experience on that. I knew that I broke those into 2 sets as well because the dumbbell thruster was just too much to do in a single set. So it was good to draw on those past experiences.
See, I did that workout and did that one unbroken. But put a deadlift in there.
Different story.
My fucking glutes were like, nope. We're done.
And it was hard to get back to that bar again and like force yourself to pick it up. My internal dialogue was like, this is a good workout for you. You just need to keep picking things up. And at no stage did I feel like I was going to like completely fail something, but it was getting close. It was like, oh, if this went another set, if this was like 15, 12, 9, 6, 3, I would have been done. Like,
yeah,
my strategy would not have worked. But it was good to see. Like, it was good to see.
Well, my deadlifting is going to be supersetted with hip thrust. my glutes need some more work.
But from your perspective, Michael, what is something that you found that was weak that you've been able to adjust after this competition?
Well, to be honest, I normally don't score very rounded. So there's always a workout somewhere along the line that catches me out. That's something I've tried to work on a lot this year, is make sure that I don't really have any holes. I've always been the kind of person who, like Matt will say it, he's like the annoying person to train with because they can always pull out a workout out of nowhere. So it's like, it could just be a random workout and then you just flog someone.
Yeah.
And it's like, this year was more about making sure that I could be consistent across everything. I didn't necessarily feel like I had any holes. Like, my movement speed was always something I had to work on, which is why I've gone with the approach of training the way I have been training, because it's pick up the bar, move fast, put it down, pick it up, move fast. Like, don't get too fixed. I can do the smooth and steady and unbroken. Like, that's not hard for me. That's comfortable. Yeah. That doesn't always correlate to a fast time. So I've been trying to work on, all right, faster burpee speed, all right, faster snatch speed, faster thrusters, like just the cycle rate of my repetitions, faster toes to bar. I'm not too fixated on, oh, can I do 40 toes to bar unbroken? Like, that total volume, the high total volume that you see in Mayhem a lot of the time, Matt and I were talking about it before. When it comes down to some of these sprint workouts and you see these guys put up really competitive times against Royce and against Jack, because they're able to dial in just really quick movement speed on things like toes to bar. In those workouts, it's just unique.
Yeah.
Fast GHDs across a set of 30, not necessarily having a workout where it's like, all right, I've got 300 GHDs. We know if there's 300 GHDs, all the Mayhem athletes are going to win that workout.
It's a lot of GHDs.
Yeah. But if there's a fast sprint set of GHDs, then anyone can win. And if you think about the sport being entertaining a lot of the time, that's probably where most of the workouts are going to sit. They're not going to write you 100 toes to bar. Who wants to watch 100 toes to bar?
No, exactly. And who wants to do 100 toes to bar either, apart from people from Mayhem?
Yeah, and if they're going to get CrossFit on ESPN and they're going to get these TV sponsorships and stuff like that, they're going to have to make it entertaining. So you are going to see more and more competitions riding fast sprint style workouts where it is more entertaining for people. So it's going to be those smaller sets that are easy to follow, faster movement speeds. And we just saw, I think in these workouts, like 50 toes to bar is kind of in the middle. It's not necessarily something like that, but anyone who had good movement speed across these workouts was able to put up competitive times.
Yeah, for everything. And they were able to hold on to things longer than they wanted to. There was a lot of uncomfortable situations. Like, nothing was unbearable, but a lot of it pushed you to be uncomfortable, which was actually good to see. Like, you've got 2 minutes to do as many clean and jerks as you possibly can. Like, how many are you going to put out? Are you going to put out a big number? Can you back that up with the set of max muscle ups? Like, can you do that constantly 3 times through? It's like, it was quite interesting to see, like, some of the combinations that they put up. It didn't necessarily be like, it wasn't like thrusters and pull-ups, the classic CrossFit combo. It was.
But they had 2 couplets.
Yeah, and
so you had deadlifts and thrusters, couplet. Then you had clean and jerks, muscle ups, couplet, and then you could almost argue the handstand one, couplet.
It had two couplets, two parts that were both couplets, but it was like the deadlift and the clean and jerk workout both had elements that forced you to do the same modality twice. Like, you were doing a lot of pressing through the arms in the clean and jerk one, and you were doing a lot of hinging and leg work in the thruster workout. So it was like, both of these workouts weren't the classic CrossFit like pull-ups and thrusters, where you get off the pull-ups, you're able to do tons of thrusters. Like the cumulative volume of not only the grip from the clean and jerks, but the pressing was going to slow your muscle ups down. Like you have to get hip extension to get the clean up there. So it was a redundant workout where it was double fatiguing, and it was like, could you still hold on? So that was an interesting take that they had. Any final closing notes for your competition, and what are we looking forward to for this?
I think overall, I really liked the workouts. Like, even I know we're saying, okay, they were pretty much very similar. I did like them. I thought they were very good for testing workouts.
They were fun. That was the main thing. They were fun, and I wasn't stressed about doing a workout because I was like, oh, here we go, 20-minute AMRAP. There was no AMRAPs. Like I mean, you could argue that the clean and jerk one was an EMOM that was kind of set like as many reps as possible, but it was in a way that made it fun and allowed you to see progression. If you're watching an athlete, you're like, wow, he's really moving on that bar. Or he's just not getting off the rig. He's doing a lot of muscle ups. All the workouts were like that. If you got to view them online, if it was like an online qualified, they would be fun to watch. You could see where everyone was. You could see how well people were doing or how poorly. So I enjoyed it from a competitor's point of view, being like, I'm looking forward to doing this. This is going to hurt because of this, but it wasn't going to hurt because I was going to be bored. And that's in my opinion a good thing, because a lot of these online comps always have these long, lengthy AMRAPs to test endurance, and they're just freaking boring. I don't want to do a 20-minute AMRAP. That's just my opinion. It's pretty negative, but
yeah, I don't mind them. They have their place, and I get, like, at CrossFit and things like that, you're going to get it, but we're probably not getting that at Down Under.
No.
Like, we're probably not going to go to Down Under. Even Torian, like, I mean, it's very hard for them to be like, all right, we're going to go do a 10K, like, ruck run. Like, that's a lot of organizing. Anyone that's run these events, like traffic control, everything like that, that's a lot of money, and no one wants to watch it.
Yeah, exactly. It's not the fans don't appreciate it, the event organizers don't appreciate it, and probably the athletes don't appreciate it.
They just want to watch people move fast and fucking lift heavy.
Yeah, and do some cool gymnastic stuff the things that we can't do. That's what we want to watch them do, the things that we can't. But I think that's going to round out episode 35. Compete to find what's weak. If you want to follow us on social media, we are at Unbound Athletic, and come back for the next podcast, episode 36.